recorded match of split format, the first feature match. So to kick it off with our first video, we have a match I just played. I was using 60 card Zefras, and my opponent was using dragon rulers with 3 baby rulers. I think he was playing 2 of each, but 3 were allowed. 3 super rejuvenation, all that stuff. Draco Sack, Big Eye, new stuff like Scarlight and Flare Metal, but no Maxi, no Valor. Split format has a different set of hand traps. There's only like 3 available, and Maxi and Valor are not them, that's for sure. So I didn't catch it. Anyway, I went first. And I start off by opening 2 searchers, which is really nice, which gives me everything I need to get my basic combo up, which is, it's not even a combo, it's just summoning Zephyr Neo. Because if you can summon Zephyr Neo, you get to search the Zephyr War Trap, which is limited in split format because it is such a versatile trap that can chain itself if you pop your own Zephyr Neo with it. And since it's the best Zephyr trap that we have, that is the first one I search, and then after that I have 3 Zephyr Divine Strike for follow-up. But on the first turn, my goal was just to Pendulum Summon Zephyr Neo and search Zephyr War, and then pass with whatever other traps I happen to open. And to do that, it's just 2 cards, Zefras to send Zephyr Neo to the extra deck, making it a scale 7, and any scale 1. Preferably one that's, preferably Hallow, which is a scale 2 technically, but same for all intents and purposes in this deck, because then I can Pendulum Summon non-Zephyrs. If you have a Zephyr scale other than Zefras, you are limited to only Pendulum Summoning Zephyr monsters, and occasionally other monsters of its own archetype if you run those, but I don't run anything like that. The only non-Zephyrs I run are like Rescue Rabbit and Tour Guide and their targets, and that's just to make Link 2s and Xyz monsters. So he opens up using a baby ruler to summon Blaster, and I feel pretty confident with my 3 traps because dragon rulers, they have to run so many monsters that they don't have much, if any, space to run stuff like Cosmic Cyclone or Mystical Space Typhoon, meaning they have very few ways to actually get rid of back row before making their plays. Blaster is the only main deck way they usually have. They might side deck MST or Cyclone if they have the space, but odds are they don't even have the space for that because the engine takes up so much of their spots. The engine itself is like 20 dragon rulers minimum, and then any tuners and hand traps you want on top of that, and then your spells like Sacred Sword and Super Rejuvenation. So there's just not a lot of space for back row removal. And if you want to use Blaster's effect to target a card on the field and destroy it, then that means you don't get to use Blaster's effect to summon him or search anything that turn. And that can kind of slow you down. So he summons a Blaster with its own effect and summons a Blaster off burner. He used Tidal, I'm pretty sure, to search. Yeah, he did. He searched a stream, I believe, giving him another way to summon a level 7. Basically, Dragon Roars are doing what they always do, spamming level 7s as fast as they can, trying to push through the opponent's defenses. It's a very aggressive deck. On the other side of the spectrum, Zephyrs are extremely defensive, and they're usually just going to be outing threats that they can out, and then passing on a bunch of traps. Here he summons an Xyz monster. It has an ignition effect, so if I pop it with Zephyr War, it won't get a chance to activate, and you won't be able to pop any of my cards with it. So that, I believe, is what I'm going to do. Let me fast forward through some of this. I do that. I have Zephyr War, so I'm popping my own Zephyr Neo to get the search. You always search Providence, because then Providence can search anything that's a Zephyr card, even if it's not a spell or trap, while Neo only searches spells or traps. So this lets you get any monster you need. So you can get Sciton or Zephyr Thubin to pop a card, or you can get Wendy to get a scale out of your extra deck, while also having a body on board to Synchro or Xyz or Link summon with. You can get Zefraxy to make something a tuner and go for a Synchro summon. This just gives you a lot of options, or you can just go for another trap if you want. He's using Redox to try to make another play, because I stopped his first one and he doesn't want to end on an empty board. But before he does that, he actually goes in for the attack, trying to at least get some damage in before I pop whatever he Xyz summons. So here I was hoping he would go for Draco Sack, and then I would just deprison the Draco Sack, or Warning Point it maybe if I was scared about what he would pop. But he ended up attacking anyway, and I kind of just had to let one of them go through so I could banish this. Redox did not get to search because he already used the effect of Redox to special summon itself, and you do not get to use 2 of its effects in one turn. Then he does have the Super Rejuvenation to draw 4 in his end phase, setting him up for next turn. Thankfully, he did not draw a Super Rejuvenation off of that one, or he would have gotten another 4 cards. I don't think it would have made much of a difference because he still has like plenty of resources to work with, but I'm just glad he didn't draw another Rejuvenation off of that. I top deck Stormy Mirror Force, which is really good. I love drawing traps in this deck because aside from Zephyr War and the 3 Zephyr Divine Strikes, you can't search traps, but you can pretty much search any monster you want because of Zephyr Oracle and Zephrath and Zephyr Providence and Zephyr Neo. You have all sorts of ways to search monsters. But traps, on the other hand, like Warning Point or Deep Prisoner Storming, are not searchable, so drawing them is always nice because it makes sure I have another line of defense to work with. Here, my turn's pretty simple. I make Zephrath a scale 7, search a tuner, that way I can Pendulum Summon, and make this a tuner. So I'll be able to synchro level 7 for Moonlight, which is good against Dragon Rulers because it just slows them down just enough to make them not have too much momentum against me. It bounces when I summon it, and it bounces a thing when they summon a level 5 or higher. So that's what happens right now. He starts off by summoning Tempest. This is mandatory, so I can't save it until he has a Draco Sack on board or anything. I have to use it at the first opportunity, unfortunately. But that's still better than nothing. It puts him back a summon. And I still have 3 traps that I'm sitting on that he has to push through, which is much easier said than done for Dragon Rulers. So he keeps extending, doing what Dragon Rulers do, summon all their level 7s. He has Redox and Tempest on board, probably going to make a Draco Sack. Now that this is out of the way. Yeah, I can't see him making Big Eye because, I mean, it doesn't really matter what I'll make, I'll just negate it with Divine Strike anyway, like I do here. I negate his first Draco Sack with Divine Strike, and then I negated his second Draco Sack with Warning Point. Now here, he thought that Warning Point only negated stuff while it was face up, like Skill Drain or Fiendish Chain, but Warning Point is actually like Effect Veiler, which he was not aware of, meaning even if the monster leaves the field for cost, the effect is still negated, because even though it says that face-up monster's effects are negated, it really means effects activated by that monster while it was face-up are negated. That's not what the card says, literally, but that's how it works, and that's how Effect Veiler works. So if you know how one works, you can apply that to the other. And that's what he was not sure about here, but eventually I convinced him, and I think someone else did too. So he decided not to do that because tributing Draco Sack to do nothing is kind of a waste of a resource. You know, you'd rather make your opponent deal with the Draco Sack than just get rid of it for them. There's no point in doing that. Then he attacks over my Moonlight. That Storming I drew last turn comes in super clutch, breaks his whole board. Like I said, Dragon Ores are really fragile to interruption. Draco Sack is usually there to pop back row, but if you negate the Draco Sack, then they can't do that, and then the rest of your back row is safe. And that's what happened just now. Now I just need to hit 5,600 damage to kill him, which normally would be hard for Zefras, but when you have a certain card that you're about to see come up, I had to think about it for a long time to plan out the play. It's actually very possible. With Nirvana High Paladin, whenever it kills something in battle, like this monster he set, it halves your opponent's life points immediately after the monster is destroyed. Meaning instead of 5,600, he would have 2,800 life points, which is a lot easier for me to get rid of after I've Pendulum summoned 2 monsters, and that's what happened. Here I start off with Tour Guide to search Sangan, Link 2 to get Pendulum summoning space, so I can Pendulum summon 2 if I need to. And off to Sangan I search Rescue Rabbit. I cannot use it this turn because I already normal summon and Sangan says I can't, but it gives me a really good follow-up play for next turn. Having Rabbit in my hand always helps me feel safe because I know, like, whatever my opponent does, I'll probably have a good answer to it through Rescue Rabbit. The card gives you so many options. You can make Castell, you can make Tornado Dragon to pop back row, you can make Breaksword to pop either of those. Both of its targets that I play are Pendulum monsters, so I get to reuse them if I synchro with them, and they're both tuners, so synchroing them with them is very possible and very convenient because I can Pendulum summon them back after I synchro with them. Here he does his standard plays. Sacred Sword is a +1 because you use 2 cards to draw 2 cards, and then the card you banish for cost gets to search another dragon. All he did on his first turn was summon Redox, so I didn't even do anything to it because it bounces itself in the end phase anyway. I just kind of let it sit there, so we'd have to summon it all over again. I was not worried about that. And now, I do only have 1 trap this time, but I was able to open a Moonlit Chill, which is basically a trap, because it's a hand trap, you know, like it serves the same purpose of negating an effect. It's kind of like a Warning Point, but less good. It's basically Effect Veiler, but more specific. because it can't negate normal summon effects, but you don't ever normal summon anything in Dragon Roars that you're going to need the effect of, besides maybe Debris Dragon, but that's more of a tech than a staple. And I don't even think he runs Debris Dragon. I never saw it come up. So I have two interruptions. I have the Moonlit Chill, and I have the Zefra War. So I feel not super safe, because my monsters kind of have low attack, and he can do damage to me through them. But I feel pretty safe. I know he's not going to be able to kill me this turn, at least. He goes for Dark Armed. I do have to pop that, or at least negate its effect, so that he can't destroy me, destroy any of my cards, because otherwise it would destroy 2 cards for free. Can't have that happening. Gotta keep my board up, gotta keep my scales, keep my back row. He activates for cost anyway, even though it's negated, just to get the title engrave. Yeah, it detaches for cost. That was fine. That way he still has more ways to extend his plays later. The title's not stuck under the Ixies monster useless. He summons a blaster, summons a title. He could Ixies right here, but he's probably scared of my trap, so I think he's going to attack first. That's what I would do, you know, like when you're playing Dragon Roars, you always want to get your attacks in while you can before your Ixies monster just gets destroyed by a trap. He attacks from a Pendulum monster. I debate protecting with Zephyr Providence. I ended up not doing that, but I kind of wish I did, so I'd be able to link summon next turn, but it ended up not being that important, I think. He attacks over a link monster, so I can't Pendulum summon 2 monsters, only 1 from the extra deck. And then he lets the Yugioh survive, of course, because if he kills it, I'll just get a free search off of it. And he does not want that to happen. Yeah, here he goes into Draco Sack. I pop it right away, because why wouldn't I? Don't want him getting an indestructible beater that can pop stuff every turn. Yugioh searches Zephyr Providence when I destroy it, and now I have plenty of follow-up plays for the next turn. He sets 2 back row, which is really inconvenient for me. Like, playing around 1 back row is really easy, because I could just go Tornado Dragon to bait it out, or I could Pendulum summon Zefras Saiton to pop it. Or I could normal summon Zefras Saiton if I search it off Oracle. But when there's 2, I only get 1 normal summon, and if I have to use my Pendulum summon to destroy the back row, that kind of defeats the purpose, because he can just chain the back row to the Pendulum summon, if it's a warning point, for example, and negate my effects anyway. So it is kind of inconvenient, and I had to think for a long time about what the best line of play was. I start off with Rescue Rabbit to see if I can bait anything out, because I'm going to have to start with Rescue Rabbit anyway, so I might as well get out of the way and then think from there. And he does end up actually using one of his traps on it. He negates the Rescue Rabbit, so I could banish it for cost, but there's no point. At least it'll give me a 300 damage buffer. On second thought, maybe I should have banished it for cost, that way he would have had to beat over my defensive monsters first. I'm not sure if I should have done that or not, honestly. Because if I leave it here, he has to deal with it himself, or I'll just use the effect next turn. So it kind of like puts the burden on him to get rid of it to make sure I can't use it. So I ended up not banishing it for cost. I would rather just have the body there in case I can use it next turn. Here I use Zefras to make it a scale 7, so I can Pendulum summon whenever I need to. Pendulum summon Yugioh to get another search. And Thubin to pop his monster. I thought long and hard about summoning Saiton instead so I could pop his back row, but I figured if I'm Pendulum summoning, he's probably going to chain the back row anyway. He ended up not, which was really nice. So Thubin got to pop his Ixies monster, and I protected my scale with Zephyr Providence, so none of my cards were destroyed. Yugioh searches a trap, and then I use Zephyr Providence to search another trap, giving me 2 Omni Negates going into his turn, so I feel pretty safe. The Rescue Rabbit is kind of a liability, because if he beats over it with Blaster, I'm losing like half my life points. Like I said, maybe I should have banished it for cost. I'm really not sure. It could have gone either way. Dragon Roars, you know them. He has 2 cards to work with, but really he has like, 7 or 8, because all the stuff in his graveyard is going to summon itself and then search more stuff. And that's exactly what he does. He starts off summoning Redox. He uses Blaster's effect to search something. I should have negated Blaster's search, I believe, because he can't summon Title. He doesn't have 2 dragons to banish for it. The search off Blaster does give him something to banish, so maybe I should have done that, but I figured it was better. It's usually better to wait for them to Ixie summon and then negate that, rather than preemptively negating stuff and hoping they can't extend. Here, that was yeah, he did have a Blaster in hand, so even if I negated it, he could have used his title to banish these 2 and still summon something, and I kind of would have wasted a trap, so I'm glad I didn't do that. Here he summons the title by banishing, 2 more dragons, one of which he searched off the blaster that I did not negate. And then he has 3 level 7s to work with. Probably not a 4th, because he already used all 3 of their effects, so I don't see a way of him getting a 4th one. This caused a lot of problems for me. This does so much burn damage for no effort at all, and its attack is pretty high. Like, Zefras don't have a lot of ways to hit 2800 attack. You usually have to, destroy it by a card effect, and then deal with it, or summon Castell to spin it. I did not have Castell access, because he's destroying both my level 4s. And stuff like Thuban can't pop it, because it can't be destroyed by card effects, while it has material. And in Dragon Roars, it's always going to have material, because you don't have any red eyes that you're going to detach to summon with it anyway. So it's just indestructible by effects. So Zefras Thuban, Zephyr War, they don't do anything to it. Here he attacks the Rescue Rabbit, which I'm kind of, sad about, but obviously he was going to do that. Why wouldn't he? He has to get it out of the way, so I can't just Ixie summon with it next turn. I top deck a Warning Point. I was really hoping to top deck a monster so I could normal summon it, and then link 2, and then pendulum summon 2 to keep extending, but I did not draw a monster. I do not have any way to normal summon, so I have no way to get this out of my extra monster zone to pendulum summon again. So I am kind of stuck this turn. I just have to set the trap I drew and pass. And hope he doesn't kill me. Oh, yeah, this is important. This came in really clutch. Since I knew I wasn't going to pendulum summon that turn anyway, I used Zefras to send Zefraxi, which is a scale 1, which would have made me unable to pendulum summon, but I wasn't going to do that anyway. And this gives me access to synchro summoning next turn, which is crucial. It's the reason I did not instantly lose, on the next turn, after he kills my stuff. Because, I do have traps, but they don't break his board. They just stop him from making new stuff. So all he has to do is keep attacking. So having synchro access came in really, really clutch. Here he Regeki breaks, but he realized that the blaster was supposed to return to my hand in the previous end, or to his hand in the previous end phase, meaning that's the ideal discard fodder for Regeki break. Very important that he noticed that. If he had discarded the Gold Sark, he would have had much less that he was able to do. Here he just attacks over me. He popped my Warning Point, which is fine. I'd rather him pop that than the Divine Strikes, because they're much better than Warning Point. He attacks over my new. I either get a search or I can protect it with Providence. And I think I let him destroy it just so I have space to pendulum summon next turn. I lose at 500 life points every time I activate an effect, which is why I went from 55 to 2,000. Just slowly killing me. All these lost 500s. Oh, and he hit me for 25. But also, I've lost 15 from 1,000 from Red Eyes Flare already. And I'm going to lose more than that with every additional card I activate. This was really nice to draw. Like I said, nice top deck, because this is a level 3, and Zefraxi is a level 3 that makes a tuner, meaning I can synchro for level 6, which was exactly what I needed to deal with his Red Eyes Flare Metal Dragon. I also could have pendulum summoned 2 level 4s, but to do that, I would have had to search a level 4 off Providence, putting me 500 life points lower than I already was. And I think he would have been able to kill me just by attacking if I had done that. Because I'd be at 500 life points, and basically any Dragon Roller except Redox is going to be strong enough to finish you off at that point. So here the level 6 I synchro for was Metaphys Horus, which doesn't destroy your target. It just says, well, it does target, but not with the effect I activated. Since I synchroed it with a Pendulum Tuner, a Pendulum Material, my opponent chooses one of their monsters and gives me control of it. And since he only has one monster, he has to give me the Red Eyes Flare. And now I am no longer taking burn damage from my effects, and he will now start taking burn damage, making it easier for me to finish him off. I can't attack with the Flare Metal, unfortunately, so it's going to be harder for me to finish him off next turn, or the turn after that. But I do get to attack with Horus, so he will at least take 2,300. And then the burn damage will probably come in handy. I still have 2 traps to work with, and I can Zephyr Providence for the 3rd trap just to make sure I'm extra protected, and I have plenty of stuff to banish to banish for cost to activate the Zephyr Wars, so the Divine Strikes. So here my board is really strong. I'm dangerously low on life points that 2 attacks could just finish me off if he's able to put enough attack power on board. He Gold Sargs, I definitely negate that so he doesn't get free searches and free dragons to banish for Blaster. I really thought he wouldn't be able to summon Blaster, but he happened to have a Tempest in his hand, which can banish Draco Sack to summon itself, unlike Blaster. So that was really clutch for him, having that Tempest to summon. He uses Blaster's effect to search a Fire Dragon, and here I'm thinking, no, it doesn't matter what he searches. If he searches Burner, he can't use it because nothing else is in his hand. If he searches Blaster, he can't use it because he doesn't have material to summon it, and it already used its effect this turn. So I thought his search wasn't going to do anything. This was a big goof for me. If I had negated the search, I think I could have just won next turn by Pendulum Summoning and attacking. I definitely choked right here by not negating the Blaster because I forgot Flamvell Guard was a card that Blaster could search. I totally forgot this card even existed. I really should have negated the Blaster. Now he can just normal summon the Guard, Synchro Summon level 8, and deal with my plays. And if the level 8 doesn't activate an effect, then Divine Strike can't do anything to it, because it doesn't negate summons, only effects. He summons Scarlet, 3000 attack. I have no way to deal with that unless he activates its effect, which he obviously won't, because he knows what my traps are. He saw me search both of them. I say I stay with the outs because I do have Dubin to pop it next turn. I just have to hope I don't die before then. So he can hit me for 700 by attacking Horus, or for 200 by attacking Flare Metal, which is probably the better choice, because then he gets these 2 dragons in his grave, because right now he's kind of like out of stuff. He can summon Blaster or Tempest, search a thing, and then that's it. And I'll just negate whatever he does. But if he kills my Flare Metal, he gets both of these back in his graveyard, giving him a lot more plays to do next turn. That's what he does. I take 200 damage, and now he can do more plays in his main phase too. He summons Redox, uses Tidal to get a search, giving him more fodder for the other Dragon Rulers. And then I think he actually just passes. Yeah, because he's already used all 4 of his Dragon Ruler effects, he cannot extend any further that turn. He will have to hope I don't kill him this turn, which I probably can't. I draw a DD Crow, which is really good. I could normal summon it to Link 2 and then Pendulum summon 2 monsters, but I elect to keep it in my hand because this can basically negate the summon of a Dragon Ruler, because they banish 2 for cost to summon the Dragon Ruler. You chain this, banish the Dragon Ruler they were going to summon, and then it can no longer summon itself because once it changes zones, it's no longer the same card. So it was going to special itself, but itself is no longer there because it changed zones. So the one that was in the graveyard is no longer there to be special summoned. So DD Crow is really good against them to kind of negate a summon and make them have to try that much harder and spend that much more resources just to get a summon off. Here I Pendulum Summon 1 to pop his Redox, and then I have a 6 and a level 4, so I can Synchro Summon this, because it lets me treat any Pendulum Summoned Pendulum monster as a tuner. So 4 plus 6 gives me 10. When it's summoned that way, I get to add any card from my graveyard back to my hand. Absolutely insane. I get to add the Zephyr War back for free, giving me yet another interruption on top of the 2 I already have. And whenever it kills something in battle, on top of the battle damage it normally does, which is 300 in this case, it also halves the opponent's life points. So instead of 3,900, he is now at 1,950, making it very easy for me to kill him next turn. All I have to do is pop whatever monsters he puts up, and then attack directly with Nirvana, and he'll be dead. I use Zefras to stock my extra deck with fodder for Divine Strikes, just in case I need it. That's what that was just now, even though I didn't Pendulum Summon afterward. I was just filling my extra deck with fodder. He is going to, looks like he top decked another Dragon Ruler, another Tempest. He's going to use Stream to summon a title from his deck. Then he can summon whatever Dragon Ruler he wants. See how stacked his graveyard is right now? Half of this would not, more than half of this wouldn't be here if I had just negated that Blaster that searched the Flamvell Guard. And the game could have gone a whole lot differently. Probably would have won a lot sooner. He summons Tidal. I'm not sure really what he can even do. Whatever he summons, I'm just gonna, pop it immediately. I do chain DD Crow to, quote-unquote, negate the summon of the Redox by banishing it before it comes out. So there's 2 more dragons that he loses. He now uses Blaster to banish Tempest. So Blaster will come out. He uses Tempest to search. I negate that because I did not want to make the same mistake twice. I didn't want him searching Debris Dragon and then extending, or really anything. Just giving him like another body on board. Or yeah, I didn't want to make the same mistake twice. So I negated his Tempest. He goes for Big Eye. I pop it, of course, because I have to, or he's going to steal my Nirvana and kill me. And that is basically game. He has nothing else he can do. Even if he summons something, it can't attack over this. And if he goes for another Big Eye, I have the trap I need to negate it. Insanely close game. You can see I came so close to losing. If I had activated even one more effect while his flare was on his side of the board, then he could have attacked my Horus instead of the flare and done 500 more damage to me, which would have killed me. So I used exactly the amount of effects I was able to. If I had used one more, Flare Metal would have hadn't done enough burn damage to finish me off. And he admits defeat because he realizes whatever he does, I can just negate it. He goes on about how even though I play 60 cards, I kept drawing everything I needed. And that's just because Zefras have so much redundancy in the cards they play that, like, it's just insanely consistent, even with 60 cards. Like, half your cards are searchable, half of your cards search other cards. You have Providence, Terraforming, Oracle, Zephyr, Zefrath, Tour Guide into Sandgang can search a scale if it needs to, or Rescue Rabbit. Rescue Rabbit gets more pendulums out. It's just it all works together and it meshes really well. That about sums it up. I guess I'll show you the deck. I might as well. Let me pull that up. I'll show you the deck list just so you can see what your average, maybe not your average, what a split format deck list looks like. And I can talk about how some of the card pulls work. Since this is the first video, many people watching this probably won't know how exactly split format works. So I will explain that real quick. Maybe I'll go into it in more detail in another video. So I call it spicy because I'm playing 60 cards and I have all the different techs. This is the list I used against him. In game, these never came up, these 4 cards right here. And in game 2, I believe I sided all 4 of them out in favor of these hand traps that are both really good against Dragon Rollers. This negates a Draco Sacker Big Eye, and this prevents the summon of a Dragon Roller. I believe I sided in all 6 copies. I'm pretty sure. I think I sided out the D-Prisons since I knew I'd be going second. So I side out the traps for cards that are more useful going second, like the hand traps. Yeah, you have Rescue Rabbit and Tour Guide, which are the easiest ways to make a link to, so that you can pendulum summon 2 monsters instead of 1. Tour Guide gets Sangan for a free search when you link it off. And Rescue Rabbit is also useful because it can pull tuners out of your deck, either level 3 or level 4. And it can use whatever it summons to go into an Ixies monster as well. Tour Guide can make a rank 3, but Rescue Rabbit can make a rank 3 with Hello Hello. Or a rank 4 with Magical Libra, giving you a lot of options. You can use Granite to search Zefrath, which is a rock for some reason. Really convenient. Or you can make Castel or Tornado Dragon or Breaksword to out your opponent's threats. Stardust Charge Warriors here because you have these level 2 tuners up at the top, or you can go like Zephyr Axie or Hallow Hallow plus one of the Zephyr level 3s. And this is really good because it draws a card, but Oracle of Zephyr says when you synchro summon using a Zephyr material, you put any monster from your deck on top of your deck, meaning you can choose exactly what you draw off Charge Warrior. So usually what I do is I stack a Rescue Rabbit and then draw it off Charge Warrior, so I have a guaranteed follow-up play on the next turn with Rescue Rabbit. You play a ton of back row because Zephyrs are very defensive and you want all the traps in your opening hand that you can get. You would play more if not for the fact that you need to make sure that you open Zefrath and a low scale so that you can pendulum summon this turn 1 and get your chain started where you just go trap every turn. So that is why I play so many scales, so many Terraforming, Oracle, Zephyr, Zephyr Providence, because I want to be able to have as many possible ways to open those 2 cards that I can. As many ways as I can. That is very important. If you don't get your Pendulum Summon Mew off turn 1, you're at a huge disadvantage. So that's why I don't play even more traps than I already do. But, I mean, this is still almost a third of the deck, so it's a lot of traps. The rest of the Zephyr stuff is pretty standard. This is the best card in the deck. These are also very useful for popping stuff. This is good for making stuff tuner. And that about covers it. This search is Resonator, and Resonator is good because you normal summon it, and then you can special summon a Rescue Rabbit or a level 4 Zephyra from your hand, and then go straight well, maybe not straight if you summon Rescue Rabbit because you're going to use its effect first, but then after that you go into Charge Warrior and get to search a follow-up play. Researcher is kind of a worse version of Resonator since it doesn't special summon anything else. It could, theoretically, if I played Zefra Core, which is a rock level 4 Zefra, but I don't play that because the effect is kind of useless, at least in this version of the deck. This is only here over a third Resonator or another trap because it is searchable by Gallant Granite. So 1 in every 30 games, you're going to have a situation where you just really need a tuner, but you don't have Resonator, but you do have access to a rank 4 off Rescue Rabbit or something. So then you can search Researcher off Granite, which can then summon itself for free because Granite is a rock monster, so that doesn't take over normal summon. That's the only reason it's there. It comes up so infrequently that I would not blame you for taking this out of the deck and just playing another piece of back row or another red Resonator instead. The extra deck is pretty standard, like pretty straightforward. There's not a lot of wiggle room because most of this comes up pretty frequently, especially this card's insane. These two cards are insane. Moonlight comes up a lot against a lot of different decks in split format. The only thing you could probably change is Gravity Controller doesn't come up that much, and Yazi. Yazi is not that great. It pops a card, but like these two Zephyr cards already do that, so the times when you really need Yazi are pretty rare. You should probably take this out of the side deck. This is not that great. It's only for, I only play it because I go against his friend, and it's specifically for a deck that he plays. For the average split format deck, this will not do anything against them. To hurt them, at least. These two cards are pretty good side deck choices. This is if you're playing against a heavy back row deck, or they're relying on Zombie World or whatever. And this is for decks that play like Deep Sea Diva or Artillery Catapult Turtle, so you can just shut their turn down from the start and stop their combo before it happens. That's about it. Yeah, the ways that split format works is you have card pools. You can pick 2 card pools. One of them has to be the generic card pool, and then one of them corresponds to the archetype you want to work with. So in this case, I was using the Zefra card pool, which is this one. These are all the options you have for a Zefra deck specifically. Other decks cannot play pretty much any of these cards. I think Tour Guide is in a couple other pools, but for the most part, only Zefra can use these. And Rescue Rabbit, Metalfoes has that too, but I think that's about it. And then the cards that any deck can use regardless of archetype are the generic card pool, which is pretty big because I want the format to have like a lot of tech options. So you can also use any cards in here. So you see I play Sangan, I play DD Crow, Scarlight, Yazi. These are generic cards that any deck can use, and I use the ones that fit into my Zephyr deck. That's going to be it. That concludes the first feature match of split format. I hope you enjoyed watching it. I hope you check out the format, and I'll try to post more videos like this soon.